This is Steve Cochran, and this is live from my office. This is the office here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, wherever you get your podcasts, I appreciate it. This is an edition of This Week in Trump, which I write regularly on Substack. More on that coming up. And this isn't politics. This isn't about party. No president should ever act the way Donald Trump acts. And it's getting worse every day. So I think it's time to have a tough talk. We need to sit down and have a talk. Now, I'm already sitting. But the tough talk is this. Grandpa can't have the car anymore. We need to take the keys. And apparently, we're going to have to move Grandpa to a place where he's less dangerous, where he can be comfortable and he won't hurt anyone, even himself. The grandpa in this picture, of course, is Donald Trump. The car is the United States of America, in other words, us. And where we're going to move him is out, because he's never been more unstable. He's never been more destructive. Donald Trump has got to go. Think about the circumstances we're talking about here. He started a war without a plan and without permission. He then threatened the entire civilization of Iran with being wiped out, just shooting his mouth off. No president has ever done that. No president ever would. Just a jackass from reality TV who decided it was time to say something that would make him feel like the tough guy that he's not. He had pictures, posts of him as Jesus, or of Jesus over his shoulder. That made a lot of people angry. How did he respond to people with true Christian belief? Remember, he's a true Christian. Remember, his favorite book is the Bible. Remember, he couldn't name any book in the Bible. You remember. He responded to people being angry about his Jesus Christ posts by starting a fight with the Pope. You can't make it up. And when things got crazy, it wasn't like the people surrounding him were reining him in, because no one can at this point. He thinks he's invincible at a level he never has before. He even said at one point recently, the war with Iran is going to work out just fine, because he had a feeling and everything works out for him. He said it to Marco Rubio. And Rubio, when you think about it, may be the biggest criminal of all, because he's smart enough to know better. The general asshats that Trump has around him in this so-called cabinet are a cabinet of kooks. It's the Star Wars bar. Rubio's not one of them. But Rubio has to live with himself and how he has acted, as does the Senate of the United States and the House of Representatives. More on that coming up. The Melania moment, where Melania throws Trump under the bus, brings back the Epstein pedophiles, and throws Trump under the bus in the way that she didn't talk about him and opened that door. RFK Jr., just shortly before we started recording this podcast, RFK Jr. said in a book that's about to come out about him, an unauthorized biography, but a well-researched one nonetheless, RFK Jr. said that he once stopped, he has a thing for roadkill, as you probably know, and got a raccoon that had been hit and cut the raccoon's penis off to save it so he could study it later. Let that one sink in for a second. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Playing War. Pete Hegseth actually was at a Pentagon Bible study and prayer session. And at this session, where legitimate believers stood by, Pete Hegseth did a Bible quote. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't a Bible quote. It was actually a fake Bible passage from a Quentin Tarantino movie you probably know called Pulp Fiction. And somehow, Pete Hegseth thought, no one will notice. I'll just say it's real. Meanwhile, wherever you've been today, how much did you pay for gas? That's Donald Trump. His latest quote on gas prices is, they're not really that high. Well, when you've stolen $2 or $3 billion in the last year and a half, you can probably afford to gas up your car. As a matter of fact, maybe that's what we ought to do. Make Trump pay for the gas that goes into the monster, the presidential limo, the Beast. The Beast is the nickname of the car, not the orange beast that rides in it. He's never been no more unstable than this. It's amazing that we've survived. Some of you might be saying, so what? We've always survived. We survived the Civil War. We survived world wars. We can certainly beat this idiot, can't we? I've heard other people say he doesn't mean what he says. I've heard people say he'd grow into the job. He's almost 80. How many 80-year-olds do you know who are willing to change? I can't name any. And certainly Donald Trump isn't one of them. And none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. The world is watching. Every day when people wake up in Beijing, when people wake up in Moscow, in Berlin, in London, in Tokyo, and in Rome, Trump is a daily discussion. And Trump loves that. Trump would never acknowledge, of course, that they're making fun of him, talking about what a fool he is, that they actually are making sure their countries are functioning at the highest level by taking advantage of our dysfunction. That's another gift from Donald Trump. Our enemies and our allies on the same page, they know what they can do with Trump. They know how to take advantage of him. They're getting better at it every single day. It's not a joke. This is not a TV show. Trump thinks everything's a TV show. I sure hope you don't. Trump has never shown any interest in the job. He's never shown any interest in learning about the job. I remember when I was on the radio at WGN in the first term here in Chicago, and somebody said, you have no respect for the presidency. You have no respect for the office. No, you know what? I respect the presidency tremendously. This is why this pisses me off at the level it does. Because the person who resides in the office resides there temporarily. And they have to show respect for the offices. By the way, every single one of the other 46 have, other than Donald Trump. He doesn't care to learn about the job. All he wants is the money and the fame. It's a bad movie. Is it fixable? Look at what just happened in Hungary. Viktor Orban, the dictator in Hungary, 16 years, I believe, in charge. The people of Hungary rose up as they did in Egypt during the Arab Spring, not that many years ago. And thanks to their election, they were able to kick him out. Now, we don't have the luxury of an election here to get rid of Donald Trump. There's only two avenues that we can take. One is, and you hear about this a lot, is the 25th Amendment. If you've done a deep dive on this, then you know, but if you haven't, the 25th Amendment works this way. The Vice President of the United States has to step up and say, the president is incapable of doing his job. He is emotionally and mentally incapacitated. That's never happened before. There have been many times where the amendment has been invoked at the request of the president because they were going through surgery and they would be under anesthesia. And for a temporary period of time, the vice president would take over and be in charge of the most powerful office in the world. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about removal. We're talking about the fact that Donald Trump is that dangerous. And we're talking about the fact that the greatest danger to the United States is not a foreign enemy. It's not anyone in the United States other than Donald Trump. Every day you wake up, you have to think, what is the orange giant pain in the ass done today? Or what will he do? The 25th Amendment doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work. You'd have to have J.D. Vance grow a set and decide it was time for Trump to go. And when he did, he would then get the majority of the cabinet. It's not technically the cabinet itself, but the majority of executives surrounding Trump. They are all designees, and those members would have to vote that Trump would have to go as well. At which point, here's the flaw. Donald Trump could simply write a letter to Congress saying, I'm fine. That's not an oversimplification. He would then go back to be the president. And then J.D. Vance, a second time, would have to rise to the occasion. That would be 2 times more than he has so far in his life. He would have to rise to the occasion and say it about Trump again and get another vote from the same people to get a majority, or maybe more would chime in at that point. And then he could be removed from office permanently, but only if Congress votes in favor of removing him. Those are big hurdles, big hurdles. And frankly, it'd be easier to impeach him again. That's the other thing everybody talks about. How do you get Trump out of office? Impeach him. Now, people confuse impeachment. Impeachment's a scolding. Impeachment are charges that are filed in the House, and then the Senate actually holds a trial. The only reason Trump is still in our lives is because cowards in the United States Senate, led by the great coward himself, Mitch McConnell, voted to allow him to stay and didn't come close to achieving the 67 vote, 2/3 of Senate margin needed for conviction. Now, understand, in both impeachments, there were a majority of votes that said, yeah, he's got to go. The second of which was about January 6th. When these members of the House and the Senate had their own lives in danger, they experienced it. They knew how bad it was. They knew that the vice president, Mike Pence, could be hung outside, as could Nancy Pelosi. They knew the damage that was being created in the Capitol. That, by the way, the only time the Capitol's been damaged to that level prior to that was the War of 1812. It's enough to make me drink. So a third impeachment would set a record. You know how Donald Trump likes setting records. A third impeachment would be the House bringing those charges. The charges could be obvious. I mean, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of charges they could bring forward. And if the Senate does vote to impeach, they would have to get that 2/3 vote. And then he could be permanently removed from office. Now, when you can't get the House of Representatives to agree on anything, when you can't get the Senate to agree on anything, when the amount of money that's being wasted in Congress goes on and on and on, you're probably saying, well, it's going to take a miracle. Well, we've seen miracles before because this jackass got elected twice, didn't he? Elected and reelected. And by the way, don't count on the Democrats here. The Democrats have shown no spine for this. And this is why leadership change is desperately needed on the left. Chuck Schumer, in a sternly worded letter, as he likes to say, that's not going to go well. I don't know that Donald Trump could even read it. So you've got to get involved. The Republican Party hasn't even been smart enough to realize this would be advantageous to them, because if they could somehow impeach Trump and J.D. Vance would become president, the people you sometimes hear go, oh, it could be worse. J.D. Vance is a coward. J.D. Vance will do whatever he's told. And these Republicans who haven't spoken up, they can't wait for the opportunity to talk about how they knew it all along and they wanted him to go. And now that he's gone, they can be Republicans again. Not Trumplicans, Republicans. They see the numbers. The fact that they haven't reacted to the numbers should offend every person with an R by their name completely. Everybody that's voted Republican, everybody that may vote Republican again. But if you think this is going to get better, again, he's almost 80. He's in terrible health. He's desperate. There's a lot of really bad things he hasn't done yet. And we're waiting around for the next one. Trump is only interested in Trump. That's all he's ever been interested in. I personally don't want to know what's next. He's already done so much damage. And when it comes to the House and the Senate, the House, 435 members of the House, it's hard to get them to agree, even on a good day. But in the Senate, it's 100 members. 100. They're supposed to be the deliberative body. They're supposed to be the last line of defense in the Constitution to protect us. If, God forbid, and I promise you the Founding Fathers never thought anyone like Trump would ever come along, at least the Senate could step up and protect us and do those checks and balances, which, of course, they have not done. And what do we know? We know silence kills. Silence is how we've gotten this far. The Senate's malpractice, the Republican Senate's malpractice is like nothing anybody ever thought they would see in this country. Everything Donald Trump said, the horrible things he says about other people, the Senate says nothing. COVID-19, 7 million people around the globe and 1.2 million Americans dead. And largely due to his mismanagement and leadership. And the Senate says nothing. Lying about the 2020 election of Joe Biden, saying it was rigged, and then inviting the goons to Washington, setting up and starting a riot. He's the one that lit the match. He's the one that started the fire. It's undeniable. It's on video. These aren't patriots. You know what Donald Trump did? Once he got back in office, couldn't wait to pardon all of them. And if you paid any attention to the coverage of that, you know that many have gone back to commit more crimes. He ought to be ashamed, but he doesn't have that part of his character. As a matter of fact, he doesn't have any character. But maybe the worst are the Epstein pedophiles. Think about what the Epstein pedophiles are. They're about men hiding with other men, the rape of teenage girls, the sexual abuse, the emotional abuse, awful, awful, awful. But we know for a fact that these young women were raped. And we know for a fact that the guy in the White House was probably one of them. And still, the Senate says nothing. You have to believe they have wives and daughters at home. They have sisters. Some cases, maybe they have mothers. And the Senate says nothing. And of course, that thing where he starts a war, that's kind of a big deal. Silence kills. And you only have to hope that silence will kill the Republicans' chances to maintain control of the Senate. The map's not very favorable, but anything's possible. Again, we've seen miracles before. And the ugliest miracle of all was the second election of Donald Trump. So what do you need to do? You need to stay involved. I wish there was a switch we could hit. I wish there was a flush handle we could click. I wish there was a way to get rid of him, as there should be, that was easy. But you need to be involved. If your primaries haven't happened yet, you have to vote in the primaries. You have to badger your friends and neighbors to get involved as well. You have to lead. You have to protect what you care about most. And you have to rise up, literally. This is a crisis, boys and girls. The house is on fire. In this analogy, the house is America, and we're watching it burn. Trump has to go. It can happen, but it can't happen without you. If you'd like to dig a little deeper on this, I've written, I should say, a longer version of this monologue. It's my latest piece. It's up on Substack. Just search Steve Cochran and see it there. As far as the podcast goes, we will get back at the regular guest offerings that we do and the other things we talk about. But we won't be leaving this topic not until he's gone. It's Live from My Office, the podcast, wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube on the Live from My Office channel. I want to thank our partners, Woody Buick and Apt Electronics, as well, for sponsoring. And I want to thank you for listening. My name is Steve Cochran. I don't mean to depress you. I mean to slap you around and wake you up if you're not already here with me. It's a scary time, and we have to show the way for others. I hope you have a great night. And God bless America, because God knows we need God's help.